All right, you wanted it, you got it. Wholesaling for realtors. So you might be a realtor and you might be thinking to yourself, hey, I just had this closing this past week with one of my cash buyers. I looked down at the HUD and the wholesaler made $10,000, $20,000, $35,000 as an assignment fee. And I only made $2,000. How do I do what he did, or how do I do what she did? So today we're going to talk about wholesaling for realtors. So where to start, because this is where a lot of people don't know where to start. So the first thing that you need to start is in your mindset. That's what you need to do. You need to tell yourself that you can do wholesaling, you're good at wholesaling, or you're going to be good at wholesaling, or you're going to learn wholesaling. Because it doesn't matter whether you're a realtor, whether you're a truck driver, whether you scrub toilets or walk dogs. Wholesaling is wholesaling regardless of what profession you're in, what you do for a living. It's all this pretty much the same structure all the way through. Okay, so the first thing you got to work on is your mindset. That's what you need to tell yourself. You got to stop thinking about, okay, I'm going to list this $300,000 house that's been well maintained and we're going to sell it to an FHA owner occupant, and they're going to get a mortgage and we're going to close in about 60 to 90 days. It's going to be on the market for 30 to 60 days. We're going to find a buyer. They're going to go through the whole loan process. That's not wholesaling. That is retail buyers and retail sellers. So wholesaling, completely different. So let me explain what you're dealing with here. So you're dealing with distressed and motivated sellers who need to sell their house quickly or as quick as possible because it's an extreme burden to them, meaning that they owe possibly taxes, they may have inherited the property, there could be excessive repairs, the roof may have caved in, they may have not maintained it at all, it may have not had any renovations done to it in the last 50 years or since the property has been in existence. That's the type of property and that's the type of seller that you need to look for if you're going to be wholesaling deals. The reason being is because if that person just goes to a regular realtor and the realtor puts that property on the market and the property is not in moving in condition, meaning someone can qualify for an FHA loan or some type of loan and move into the property, then that property is going to sit there. And that's the problem is a lot of realtors will take a look at that property and then say, oh, okay, properties are selling for $300,000 in this area. So we're going to put it on the market for less than what properties are going for in this area because it would be a great property to go in there for a handyman or someone who wants to fix up the property, and they can dump in all this work and money into this, and they'll eventually have this great property that they did for themselves. No, that doesn't exist anymore. That is few and far between. That may have been popular in the 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s, but since the real estate market crash of around 2008 or whenever, people don't have money to renovate properties on their own. The people who have money to renovate properties are the cash buyers or the ones who use hard money loans or private money. Most people can barely scrape together 2 nickels for a 3.5% down FHA loan. If for a $300,000 house, that means they need to come up with $10,000 plus closing costs and all the other nonsense. So you're looking at maybe like $10,000 to $20,000 for a down payment for a house. Well, that's their whole life savings. They don't have money to dump into this kitchen that hasn't been renovated in the last 40 years. They don't have $20,000 extra to do that. They don't have $30,000 to do, whatever cosmetic makeover that they need to do. They don't have 10 or 15 or 20 grand for the roof. So no one's going to buy that house. It's going to sit on the market. So if the properties are if the typical average renovated property or well-maintained property is for $300,000, you can't list that thing for like $280 or $270 or $260 even for that matter, and think that you're going to get somebody to move in there unless it's actually, livable or it's in some like really hot area. But for the most part, if it's a dump and there's stuff stacked to the ceiling and it needs like 100 grand in repairs, there's no handyman that's going to buy that property. So, and again, you can do what you have to explain these types of things to the seller. That, hey, I have cash buyers that will buy this property. We can list this property. We have different options. We can list this property and it might take a lot longer to sell. But if you're looking to sell this quickly, I have cash buyers who will buy this property very quickly. They'll give you a fair offer. We can close in 30 days or less as soon as the title's been done. And then you can help that person that way. That's a lot better than the property sitting on the market for 6 months, then having your listing go expired, and then you didn't really do them any service at all. You just did them a disservice. So you can take that property and you can say, hey, look, this property is going to need probably, let's say $100,000 in repairs. I'm talking about an entire makeover, including finishing the basement, redoing the roof, redoing the siding, all the kitchens, the bathrooms, redoing the drywall, the electric, the plumbing, the heating, all of that stuff. So no cash buyer is going to buy a property to lose money. So that means they're going to spend about 70% of the loan of the ARV, the after repair value, minus the repairs. So if you have a $300,000 property and it needs $100,000 in repair, take 70% of $300,000, which is about $210,000, minus 100, so that's $110,000. So that's what you can sell that property for. Build your fee into the repairs and holding costs and so forth. So you can make a $10,000 or $15,000 wholesale fee because you have connections, or you should have connections to cash buyers in this case. If you don't, I'm going to show you in another video how to develop cash buyers. But if you're already a realtor, if you're already in this industry, you should be able to figure out how to find other cash buyers in this industry. So that's the first thing, is mindset. The other thing is, this is part of the mindset, is you got to go from I sell houses to I buy houses, right? So the average realtor, I'm looking to sell a house. I'm looking to list a property and sell this property for this person. But now you got to think like a cash buyer. I buy properties cash. You might even want that property for yourself. So it's a complete change of mindset, because now it's money out of your pocket as opposed to money out of somebody else's pocket. Or at least thinking of like, hey, if I were to buy this house for cash as is, how much am I looking to spend for something like that? Or how much would a realistic cash buyer who does this for a living, how much are they going to spend for that? And how much is, and you got to factor in your time, connections, that's all valuable. So that's why you can make a wholesale fee on top of that, which would be typically larger than a real estate commission. So the other thing is, you got to look at the legalities and work with a broker-friendly organization. So obviously there are certain rules and regulations governed by the real estate board or commission, whatever your state. Different states have different laws. So make sure you look into that. Make sure you're doing everything ethically, and that you say things in the proper manner to whatever seller or to whatever buyer that you're dealing with. So obviously you want to disclose what you're doing, but there's a certain way of how you say that. You don't go and say, okay, well look, I'm going to put your property under contract and I'm going to make a big fee on top of that. Are you okay with that? I mean, some people might say, yeah, that's fine. And you can say something like that, but there are more tactful ways of dealing with that. And you got to be careful with, obviously you might probably want to disclose that you are a realtor, you are a licensed realtor. You might want to disclose that, hey, this property could possibly go for more on the open market, but given the condition that it's in, it could also sit there for a long time. Whereas you got to be more geared toward, this would be more geared towards a cash buyer in this case. So those are, really the basics. The basics, just if you've never started in this before, if you've been a realtor for 10 years and you've never done a wholesale deal, start thinking about doing a wholesale deal, because this is a really great market to do these kinds of things in. It's not every deal. I'm not saying you do that for your entire business. But if something comes up once a month or once a quarter and you're able to make another $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on top of that, then do it. Why wouldn't you do it? There's nothing wrong with it. So if you have any questions, comment below. If you like this video, like and subscribe. I hope this was able to help. And if you are a realtor and you've never done any deals, what do you think that you're going to need to do? Comment below. And if you are a realtor who has who does wholesale deals, I also want to hear your input because you actually know what you're doing. So comment below as to what you're doing, what you think it takes to get involved in that. One other thing is where to start, just beyond the mindset and beyond doing this. Go to real estate investor networking group meetings, ring meetings, REI meetings, any type of investor group. Find out who the other wholesalers are. Sometimes when I go to these groups, it's like, okay, well, they ask you for, what you do. Raise your hand if you're a realtor. Raise your hand if you're a wholesaler. Raise your hand if you're a cash buyer. And you automatically lump yourself into whatever category you think you're in, or that you want them to kind of lump you in. And you don't have to do that. If you're a realtor and you want to be a wholesaler, raise your hand when they say wholesaler, and then start networking with the other wholesalers. Find out what they do, find out how they find these deals, because you're going to find these deals just being in the real estate business. So that's all I got for today. I'm going to be making more videos on this subject of wholesaling and just real estate in general. So if you have any questions, just give me a shout, comment below. Thanks.